This is something I don't see very often discussed when it comes to covering a director's work. There's enough patterns and nuances to the format of Dezaki's TV anime to be worth bringing up, by which I mean all the little dressings that frame each episode. People always talk about OPs and EDs, sure, but what about title cards, eye catches, or next episode previews? You might not think much of them, but they're still a part of the experience. If you've watched enough anime, you'd know it's not as rigid a format as you'd expect. I want to take you through the journey of most of Dezaki's major TV series and OVAs, and look at how he changed his framing over time. Starting with Joe 1, every episode starts with the OP, which all but 5 of his series do as well. I think this will always be my preferred format choice. While several of my other favorites use cold opens, it's not quite as classy to me as using your OP as a tone setter. For Dezaki, that tone setter was almost always upbeat and energetic, but otherwise they're all pretty distinct from one another, from artsy to abstract to straightforward, but I honestly like all of them. Joe's first OP being my favorite song, Cobra's OP for having my favorite OP visuals, and Takarajima having my favorite OP overall. Next would be the title card, which appears anywhere in the span of a minute after the OP. In Joe 1, they were each set against a different background, which makes them unique and a tone setter in and of itself. I'd love to assemble a collage of them someday. In Aim for the Ace, he started using static title cards, so the same image every time. But then, in Joe 2, he starts using this. A black title screen with white lettering. This is actually what made me realize he has patterns with this stuff. He uses this in almost every single subsequent anime he directs afterward. There's a little variance, but more than anything it emphasizes the text, which can sometimes be a good foreshadowing tool. While I'm still partial to unique title cards, the black title cards are just really slick and leave an impression on me. After that is not so much what Dezaki includes, but what he doesn't. And it's almost the one thing every single work of his shares. He doesn't use eye catches. Instead, they cut or fade to black somewhere in the middle. The one exception is Aim for the Ace 1. Why you gotta spoil it like that? He wants the work to be as cinematic as possible. Don't interject with some random cutaway. As much as I love eye catches and think they can help emphasize the flow of an episode, it makes sense why Dezaki would avoid them. That was the other noticeable pattern that convinced me to make this whole section. Then comes a critical moment in an episode, the ending. How do you transition from your episode to the ED? Many shows today don't have a way of ending their episodes, it just cuts to an ED, but back in the 70s, that shit was a big fucking deal. The music swells, keeps on that last shot, and slowly dips to black or white. That's how Joe 1 and Ace 1 end themselves, as well as Dezaki's later work from Cobra onwards. But that sweet spot in the middle, from Gamba to Joe 2, a big fat white Suzuki in the bottom right hand corner. Just classic. Ace 1 did use Suzuki as well, just starting with episode 4. It feels so satisfying, as well as encouraging the audience as a, oh don't worry, we aren't finished yet. I don't care how effective it is as a cliffhanger to suddenly cut to an ED, egging the audience to watch more. I think it's disrespectful of the audience's time and leaves the viewer unsatisfied, even if the episode they just watched was great. Next, you have a pretty even mix of what to show next. A third of Dezaki's anime show a preview of the next episode, playing before the ED. Another third of Dezaki's anime swap the two and have the ED play before the next episode preview. And the last third don't have next episode previews at all, just playing an ED at the end. And like Dezaki apparently was, I'm pretty torn on what I prefer. I think sometimes showing the next episode preview right as it ends gives the viewer a nice cushion if it happens to be a really strong cliffhanger, but then again I don't think next episode previews are all that valuable, since they can very easily and very often spoil what's going to happen. So I prefer just having no preview at all. And last, the EDs. These have just as many similarities between each other as the OPs. That being not a whole lot, I would argue most of them are made to wind you down in the way the OPs would wind you up. They're often ballads, and can have a sense of sonical finality to them. And probably some of my favorite EDs are just meant to cheer you up, like Remy's ED, since, yeah, that show can be really, really sad. It's good the ED is sort of a pick-me-up. Unlike the OPs though, not nearly as much is going on visually. Most of the time it's a static image, panning or zooming, which I think is suitable so as not to distract from the credits. I would say Cobra has my favorite ED song, Ace 1 has my favorite ED visuals, and yeah, again, Takarajima has the best ED overall. Hot damn.